We will call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Election Commissioners for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chair. And with me today is Commissioner June Brown.
Present.
And Commissioner William Cressy.
Also present.
Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any changes, proposed changes? If not, we'll proceed with the approval of the regular board meeting minutes of April 26, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
Seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Approved, motion made and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. Mr. Holliday.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Brown, and Commissioner Cressy. Participating in my monthly meetings of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, we talked about malicious domain blocking and reporting of such. But I will say again, our network security team keeps our system up to date and secure from these types of attacks. Met with Runback, our vendor for our Gillis machine. They were in town on last week and just wanted to stop by and see how our machine was working and just to talk. Along with Kimiko Mehta, our Director of Asian Outreach, on last Thursday, we attended the 30th anniversary celebration of the Asian American Advancing Justice. We did some networking, and we also let them know that the board will continue to provide all services that we have been providing in the past. And if they had any suggestions, please let us know. We were open to them. Our super site, the electrical installation is complete. Smith's custodian will be there on Monday to do a final cleaning, and all the graffiti that was on the windows have been removed. I had talked about the IBW Union Hall for a election day voting site. However, they already have something scheduled that we can use it, but they're open for us to use it in November for a election day voting site. On last night, along with Max Bever, our public relations director, we attended the virtual meeting with Jacob Kaplan and the Democratic committee persons and talked about upcoming election dates, early voting, vote by mail, and polling places. Last but not least, I have attended various inter-office meetings with the staff on election items. So ends my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have one question on the super site. So what is our alternative for this election?
Right now, we don't have another alternative for a super site. United Center, the time frame they were giving us to set up is not feasible. The day before the election, there's not enough time for us to get that place up and running like it should be.
So are we continuing to look for a location?
Yes, we are. I still have our facility coordinator, Dean Fatikas. He is still looking for other options other than 191 for an election day voting site.
Yeah, Charles, you had mentioned, I think once before, Wintrust Arena. Is that available?
The Wintrust is not. They're only available for us to put a drop box. And one of the issues with the Wintrust is parking. We wouldn't want the voters to have to pay for parking to vote, to go vote. They don't have a public lot where they can park for free. The parking over there, they have to do it in the garage.
Okay. Well, keep us apprised of your efforts and the options that will be available. I'm sure you and others at the board are doing everything you can to find a place.
Yeah, we're still talking with the United Center if they can let us in there a little earlier than the day before. we will still consider using United City if we can get in there early, but we're still in talks. The playoffs are over. The Bulls at home
At least for the
watching us.
Bulls.
So, but they had other events scheduled. So we're trying to see how we can work around and work in between those events.
Charles?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Lance, you have a comment?
Just to add to Charles's report, Charles and I have been doing voter outreach. It's worked out very well. In fact, Charles is speaking on May 21st. We're just trying to finalize the location. We've been doing the south side. We're going to the west side. So we're trying to cover the whole city. The other item is just to let you know that Chicago votes for Mother's Day. Their women went out to the jail and registered pretrial detainees for Mother's Day.
Nice.
They get over 138 registrations. So I thought that was very nice.
Mhm.
And that's basically all we have. Correct, Charles?
That is it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay. Now we'll hear from our Assistant Executive Director, Sandra Spera.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Today, I'm going to provide you with an update of numbers provided to you at the last board meeting and also a few other items. As of today, the vote by mail department has processed a total of 75,319 vote by mail applications, and this includes 326 military and overseas applications. The military and overseas ballots will be sent this Friday. This meets the 45-day mailing deadline. The nursing home packages were delivered to 91 nursing homes. They were delivered last week. The early voting location sites and hours for the June 2022 primary election was posted on the State Board of Elections website. A total of 6,808 election judges are presently assigned. This includes 404 high school students, and the deadline for the parental consent is May 20th. The pending election coordinators total is 1,579, and the recruitment of the 100 plus standby judges is planned. The language coordinators currently are proofing the paper ballot, audio ballot, and the touchscreen ballot. The mock election is presently scheduled for May 18th, and no changes to that date are anticipated. And the HR department has sent a notice to staff reminding them to get boosted, in that it has been announced that the COVID virus numbers are increasing in the city of Chicago. At the warehouse, the inventory of e-poll books and equipment is completed. Also, the election judge manuals are scheduled to be delivered to the warehouse today. And that completes my report for today.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners? No. I don't think Max Bever is on today.
He's not, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Now we'll proceed to old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration, which includes and electronic poll books and voting equipment. Do we have anything additional on that?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then legislation, Mr. Lasker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The General Assembly is not in session at the moment, so I don't have any updates on legislation.
Okay, thank you. Under new business, then we have a proposed contract with Aero Messenger Service for messenger and driver services for the 2022 elections. And who will speak to this? Opal?
Yes, I can speak to that, Madam Chair. Good morning,
Good
Madam
morning.
Chair, fellow commissioners. This is a recommendation to enter into a contract with Aero Messenger Service. The Chicago Board of Elections will partner with Aero Messenger Service for messenger and driver services. These services include, but are not limited to, pickup, delivery, and driver services. for the board's early voting sites, our nursing home sites, our university sites, and our election day voting sites. They also include any requested services by the board's pre-election voting and logistics and warehouse departments. This agreement will span both upcoming elections, the June and the November 22 elections. The term of this contract shall commence on May 10th, 2022 and expire January 15th, 2023. This agreement is deemed a subcontract under a previously awarded contract with the City of Chicago and its Department of Procurement Services under a bid specification and contract. This contract award is not to exceed $1 million. And that is the recommendation for your approval today.
Do the commissioners have any questions? If not, is there?
One quick, just for the record, Arrow, we've used them for a long time. Their service has always been satisfactory, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've partnered for them for the last several elections. We have no issues, no complaints. Always exceptional service. Yes.
I've used them personally. They do great service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve a contract for messenger and driver services with Arrow Messenger Service, Inc. as a subcontract under City of Chicago contract number 26588 for the period May 10th, 2022 through January 15th, 2023, and with a value not to exceed $1 million over the term of the contract?
So moved by Commissioner Cressy.
Seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the legal report. Mr. Lasker?
Thank you, Madam Chair, fellow commissioners. I actually do have a bit of a report today. You may have noticed I was on the phone when this meeting first started, so I got some information literally a minute before this meeting started. I'll get to that in a moment, but if bear with me, a few things on the agenda. We have a county-wide objection case from the County Electoral Board that is on judicial review. The candidate is last name Gercone, Gercone. She's running for county sheriff. Initial hearing was yesterday. There's another hearing this afternoon. Interestingly, the candidate who filed for judicial review did not name the objectors as parties to the judicial review. It's been a universal agreement that the objectors are necessary parties for a judicial review. So this is a new step that they're making, consciously making an argument that you have to serve the objectors but not name them. It's interesting that they would just choose to make that argument. They could have refiled a new petition for judicial review yesterday. Yesterday was the deadline. Because they filed early, we had our initial court hearing within still the 5-day filing period. So it's quite a surprise to me that they then they were making a conscious decision to move forward, making the argument that the objectors do not need to be a party to the judicial review. They were adamant yesterday that the objectors cannot argue, cannot present a case or anything during these proceedings. It's a jurisdictional issue, so the proceeding did not go forward yesterday. It's rescheduled for this afternoon, and the parties are duking that out. Now, the board is taking, of course, a neutral stance as to whatever the outcome of the underlying electoral board case might be, but this does involve our ballots, so we certainly don't want a court order affecting our ballots if there's not proper jurisdiction. So I'll let you know how those hearings continue to go. Now, moving on, I got a phone call from legal counsel for the county clerk's office just immediately before this meeting. And there's two main issues. One involves this candidate, Gercone, and a few others. This is the issue where the candidate has been ruled off the ballot by the electoral board, but now there's a judicial review pending. And the first issue that this raises is, do we and the county leave the candidate's name on the ballot pending resolution in the courts, Or do we remove the name from the ballot and then adjust again later if the court rules the candidate back on? It is my understanding, and Mr. Goff, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding we have a long tradition of this board of not taking action on a removal of a candidate's name during judicial review. My predecessor and I are in agreement that section 10-10 of the election code has a provision on when the electoral board's decision becomes final and enforceable, and that gets put on hold when there's judicial review filed. I think that all candidates, whatever office they're running for, whoever has jurisdiction over their objections, they need to be treated equally.
Correct.
So I'm going to, as an example, I'm going to describe how the process works when we are the electoral board hearing the case, but the nomination papers, original nomination papers and original objections were filed with the state board. That's every single electoral board case we just had. We received the objections from the state board of elections. Our electoral board had jurisdiction. They were state rep, state senate, and Congress. We don't handle all of those cases, but we do for the ones that touch Chicago. The election code says that after the electoral board rules, there's a 5-day period you can file for judicial review. It says once that 5-day period is up, the electoral board handling the case transmits the original objections and nomination papers back to the original office along with the electoral board's final decision. And at that point, that original office shall abide by the electoral board decision. So that means to me that statutorily the electoral board's decision is not final and enforceable, and the state board of elections theoretically wouldn't even know about it officially, statutorily, until 5 days have elapsed. The statute says unless there has been a petition for judicial review filed. We don't even transmit our case back to the state board if there's a judicial review filed. And that tells us that the electoral board's decision does not become final and enforceable until after the circuit court has ruled. That's my legal opinion that I believe my predecessor shared. That's why I believe this Board of Election Commissioners has kept candidates on the ballot while this is pending. We just recently had a staff meeting along with Dominion, our election systems operators. The printers of the ballots and our election system operator all agree that the administratively more efficient, safer, less room for error way to proceed is to leave the candidates' names on the ballot. We've gone around discussing the language we can use in a notice that we send to the voters so that the voters know that these candidates are still subject to pending litigation. Their votes may or may not be counted depending on the final outcome of the litigation. And then if the candidate remains off the ballot, we suppress the votes, which is a simple thing to do. The only other option is if the candidate comes back on the ballot, we then have to flip gears and shut down the entire system. Dominion said it could take up to 48 hours to reprogram to put candidates back on for the touch screens. And of course, printing paper ballots would be a nightmare in a normal year. We also know there's been a paper shortage right now, right? So for paper ballots, if it gets to the point where that could happen, we might not even be able to print them. We don't know for sure. I'd like to remind you, we have pending litigation in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals right now from the 2018 March primary, where a candidate was ruled off the ballot, but then the appellate court put her back on the ballot 6 days before the election.
Right.
If we had not left her name on the ballot, we would have had to reprint paper ballots 6 days before the election.
Over 1 million ballots.
It would have been over 1 million ballots because that was a countywide office as well.
Right.
So there's the news. The news I got this morning is that the county is leaving her on the ballot. They have a new administration since 2018 and new legal department, and they're deciding to keep this candidate and others subject to judicial review litigation. They're removing her from the ballot.
Adam, you asked me, was this correct? And you're absolutely correct. Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Holliday and I have discussed this, but Lance has the knowledge from 30 plus years of what the board has been doing here. So I just, I've been going back individually with you commissioners because of Open Meetings Act. I think this is not something we can discuss in executive session. I think this is a very public matter. I wanted to bring it up with all three of you here today because unless I hear strong opposition from any of you, it is my recommendation, particularly based on the administrative feasibility matters from our consultants and so forth. In addition to, I think it's the right thing under the statute, that we leave those names on pending judicial review. We can do a simple notice to the voters so they know there's a risk to vote for these people. There's also a great risk if you take the name off the ballot that the people commit they don't vote, and then they argue, well, I would have voted for her had she had her name on the ballot.
Right.
Exactly.
So again, you just have to weigh these potential problems and figure out which is the best way to go.
Adam, question. If we leave candidate X's name on the ballot, eventually the court rules they should be off the ballot. Would you anticipate that we then, especially for the touchscreen, can we go in and remove that name from the ballot, or just leave them and place the notice in the voting booths?
So first of all, the answer to that question depends on whether or not we have printed the precinct ballots yet. The answer is yes, we can remove the name from the touchscreens. Yeah. But we've also made a decision previously, if we want to stick to the past precedent, which is that all of our ballots should look the same at all the times.
Right.
So if the paper
ballots have already, if the paper ballots have already gone to print, then we just leave everything and just place the notices in the voting booths. But if it's before, which is deadline's coming up on us quickly.
The 19th. The 19th is when the vote by mail ballots will start going out.
Yeah.
Okay. That just curious. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have a question, and this is based on yesterday's news about the remap.
Yeah.
And can you fill us in a little bit, assuming, and it's nothing official, it's just what's been reported, but assuming now that one map has a sufficient number of aldermanic votes, by when does there have to be a vote?
The statutory deadline is 40 days before the election, so that is the 19th. That's the same day that we have to, by statute, start sending out our vote by mail ballots. Let me point out the tremendous advantage that we have now with these on-demand printed vote by mail ballots, because we'll be able to make adjustments, maybe not all the way up until the 19th, but it buys us a lot of time because we're not pre-printing all the vote by mail ballots. They're printed as they get requested. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. But the 19th is the deadline. I spoke with legal counsel for the city council yesterday afternoon, and he assures us that they're trying to do it before the 19th. Early next week, he said, they're going to try to call the city council meeting.
Okay.
So we would be able to remove it. Assuming it's done early next week, I believe we'd be able to remove it from all ballots. If we can't, if the paper has gone to press, suppressing the results of a referendum is even less of a big deal because there's no opponent in the race. It's not a contest between two candidates. So there's no second candidate that can argue any sort of it wasn't fair kind of argument. So if necessary, the questions will stay on, but it looks like they're going to take their action soon enough for us to resolve that.
Okay, hopefully.
Hopefully. Lots of moving parts for this election, aren't there? I've got another real doozy coming. We haven't even hit the biggest news yet. Mr. Cressy.
You're on mute, Commissioner.
That's why you can't hear me. Oh, yeah, Adam, were we planning on having 2 sheets of paper for the ballots or just the one with the referendum on the back?
The skin on our teeth, we're on one sheet of paper right now, front and back, full front and back.
Okay.
But we're at maximum.
Yeah, some of the precincts are really cutting it close because they've got local referenda and so forth. First Congressional District has a ton of candidates, And then in the first congressional district are the 3 and only 3 precincts that have local referenda. So those are the ones that are the tightest, but even those right now are fitting on one sheet.
Okay, good.
My point, maybe you figured it out, is, plan to have the city ward map referenda on a second sheet. And then if, as now is anticipated, the city council acts, then we just don't print that second sheet.
But then that's, if we do have to print that second sheet, we don't even know if we've got the paper for that.
Yeah, right. Paper shortage.
I appreciate the idea, but because of
Yeah.
the paper issue, that could really, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Or at least I don't know as I sit here today.
Right.
So any more questions or proposals on ballot names or?
This is
All right.
taking you back to your old journalism days with the late breaking news.
Yeah, really. So those are just the little news briefs. Now let me give you the big news. And I this is coming right now because I just got the phone call. There was litigation that I had previously reported to you involving the Libertarian Party. This board was originally named as a party, even though we were not did not have any claims. But the county clerk's office, which certifies offices for election, had not certified the Libertarian Party for county board and board of review offices. They reached a resolution in that litigation, and therefore the Libertarian Party was certified for those offices. They've had candidates file nomination papers, only one candidate per office, which means they're all uncontested. We were moving forward in conjunction with the county clerk's office. They were going to tell us that we didn't need to do ballots for the Libertarian Party. As we all know, I had been awaiting confirmation letters from the county on that. And I just got the phone call this morning that they've apparently reaching a settlement agreement in that litigation. It's apparently ongoing. There's apparently going to be a settlement agreement, not a court order, that there be a Libertarian Party primary and that we will need countywide Libertarian Party ballots. So I will obviously, after this meeting, start talking with staff. Charles, we got to get on the horn with everybody and start getting those ready. There won't be a ton of ballots in every precinct, but we'll have to have ballots in every precinct and on the touchscreens. I'm a little perturbed that they're just agreeing to this even without a court order, but that is what they're doing. They don't want to set a precedent with a court order, so just go ahead and have a settlement agreement. So that's the news I got literally a minute before this meeting started.
Adam?
Yeah.
Since we have a touchscreen voting booth in every precinct, would it be possible to not have to print paper Libertarian ballots for the precincts and just direct Libertarian voters to touchscreen?
That is a possibility, yes. Given, the only concern we have, right, is that those machines are primarily dedicated for elderly voters and voters with disabilities. There's one touchscreen in every precinct on election day. And they're primarily dedicated to elderly voters and those with disabilities and language accessibility as well. So we don't want lines to start forming for the one and only machine that we have.
My other concern is if by any chance that machine goes down, and you know how sometimes it's just like it's not set up properly, there are issues with it. I'm leaning towards having paper ballots,
I'm agreeing with that. This is Commissioner Brown, because if you get one person that can't get to that touchscreen, they're going to blow up Election Central all day. So at least some paper ballots for that.
And it will be an easy ballot for our staff to prepare, and we won't need a large quantity of them in every precinct, and we'll keep extras at the warehouse so that if a particular precinct happens to get low on them, we'll resupply as the day goes on. But I do think that's probably the way that we should proceed.
Can we do an analysis like we do?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, please.
I was going to say, can we do an analysis of the precincts like we do with language that, those, if we have some precincts that have voted heavily Libertarian in the past, we can, give them, so many paper ballots and just a few to the other precincts.
We can look at that. I believe it's in the board's, archive voter history, but I don't recall the last time there was a Libertarian Party ballot. So that data is going to be somewhat old. When I guess they had candidates on the ballot, so we can look at election results by precinct from
Right.
2 years ago when they were qualified at the 5% level. Yeah, we can look at election results and figure that out. Yep.
That would be good.
Mm-hmm. So, as my father would say right now, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
I was going to say, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, right? Don't shoot the messenger.
Good news. Ugh.
What I liked, Adam, is you answered one of my questions in a way that I tell my business law students when they ask, some law question, what's the answer? And the answer is always, it depends.
How so? Yeah.
It always depends.
It always depends. Well, as you commissioners know, I'm always here for you with your individual phone calls and emails if there's any follow-up questions, and obviously I'll be working heavily with the staff on these issues.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions of Mr. Lasker, I'll go on with the agenda. I believe we do not have a financial report today. Trish, has anyone requested public comment?
I have not received any request for public comment.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lasker, we do not have a need for executive session?
Correct, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, if not, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Brown.
And seconded by Commissioner Cressy.
Properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please state aye.
Commissioner Brown votes aye.
Commissioner Cressy votes aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and stay cool.
Yes.
That's cool.
Take care.
And stay
Take care,
safe. Take
everybody.
care, everybody.
Okay.